Being a parent or caregiver is no easy task. It doesn't matter if it's for a human baby or an animal one. We all get tired, we experience doubt, and we lose our faith in ourselves. But if we are able to, we keep trying. I doubt many of us would just absolve our responsibility as caregivers. I'm your host, Hepburn, and you're listening to the Voiceless Speak Forever podcast, a true crime podcast dedicated to exposing the many misdeeds and abuses done to animals. And every week, I'll be covering a new animal abuse case. Today, I'll be covering the abuse case of Sammy the Cocker Spaniel. In March of 2013, in the small town of Brick Township, New Jersey, Keith Morgan walked into Trenton Falls Associated Humane Society with a large black garbage bag in his arms. What might have already been a peculiar sight became alarming when the Humane Society staff saw what was inside: a malnourished Cocker Spaniel dog whose fur was so matted with its own excrements that it could not walk, let alone stand up. Upon seeing the dog in this condition, the staffers immediately took him in and transferred him to the Red Bank Veterinary Hospital for treatment. Victor Amato, a humane law enforcement officer for the Monmouth County Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, really highlights how poor the dog's health was. What the dog had gone through, it's a miracle the dog even survived. I remember holding the dog in my arms and remembering how frail it was. He was just bones. We never thought that he was going to live 48 hours. As the dog fought for his life, Keith was doing interviews. According to him, he and his wife Shauna have found the dog alongside a New Jersey roadway, Belmar Boulevard, abandoned in the garbage bag they brought him in. This story brought him and Shauna fame. They were lauded as heroes. They were seen as kind and compassionate people who loved animals so much that they would stop whatever they were doing to help an animal in need. After all, had the couple not been by Belmont Boulevard at the right moment, just as a car left behind a trash bag with the dog inside, then the dog surely would have died along the roadside where he was found. But not everyone believed this story was as wholesome as Keith and Shauna made it out to be. Whether it was an anonymous tip or Amato's sixth sense that triggered the investigation, the Associated Humane Society in Trenton Falls found that the dog that they lovingly called Morgan in honor of his rescuers was actually registered to the Morgan's household, which meant that Morgan, the dog, belonged to Keith and Shauna. So it turned out that Keith and Shauna were not the good Samaritans that they made themselves out to be. They weren't people who were just going their way, minding their own business, and miraculously found a dog in need of help. No, he and his wife Shauna were the ones who put their dog in the dire state he was in. They were the abusers. And so, the Morgans were promptly arrested and charged with animal cruelty, abandonment, and filing a false police report. As they dug deeper, they discovered that Morgan was actually named Samurai, or Sammy for short, and that he was roughly between 14 to 17 years old and had been with the couple for at least 9 years before his abandonment in 2013. Once the Monmouth County SPCA were alerted that Sammy had a 3-year-old sister named Addie Thursday, they moved to remove her from the Morgan home. The investigators were afraid Addie had been abused as well, but were unable to conclusively say if she was mistreated because she was immaculately groomed by the time the Morgans turned her in. Throughout the court proceedings, supporters of Sammy flooded the court to show their support for Sammy. During the arraignment of the Morgans, hundreds of people wearing green shirts with the phrase "Justice for Sammy" showed up. And during another hearing, a Sammy supporter even yelled, "Go kill yourself," when she learned that the Morgan trial would be further delayed since the Morgans had yet to reach a plea agreement. However, in August of 2013, he finally entered guilty pleas to animal cruelty and animal abuse and filing a false report with the police while his wife, Shauna, entered guilty pleas to 2 counts of abuse and neglect. Charges of abandonment were ultimately dropped. In November, Judge Robert Lepore announced Keith and Shauna's punishment: 6 months in jail with a fine of $1,000, $13,500 in restitution to Red Bank Veterinary Hospital, 3 years of probation, 30 days of community service, and a lifetime ban on ownership of an animal. At the sentencing, both Keith and Shauna apologized for their actions. Keith blamed kidney disease and his poor mental health after Shauna left him for his mistreatment of Sammy, while Shauna claimed that she knew nothing of what was occurring at their residence during her absence and was sorry for not taking Sammy with her. They were met with little sympathy. Judge Lepore condemned the couple, saying the lack of care provided to Sammy was inexcusable. Unless these individuals are imprisoned for their depraved, cruel, and heinous conduct, such acts of animal cruelty will continue worldwide. This court believes that a message needs to be sent not just to these defendants, but to all of society that animal cruelty is a national and global problem and must be addressed and deterred. This was a profound statement and gave many the hope that Sammy would get his justice, because up until then, animal abuse cases involving neglect didn't warrant jail time in New Jersey. But as things go, the Morgans appealed, and unlike Judge Lepore, who condemned animal cruelty, the appeal court judge, James Blaney, decided to overturn their sentencing. So instead of spending 6 months in jail, Keith was given 90 days of house arrest with 5 days of community service, while Shauna was given a year probation and 30 days of community service. In addition, they no longer had to pay the $13,500 back to the Red Bank Vet Hospital anymore. Blaney capped the restitution at $1,000, which meant that the remaining difference had to be paid off by money that had been raised for Sammy specifically. And worst yet, is the fact that the couple was allowed to own pets again. Why, you may ask, did Judge Blaney reduce their punishment? Well, mitigating factors, like Keith being unable to take care of Sammy because of his kidney disease and poor mental health, which are, to be fair, serious issues. But at the same time, they should not be used as excuses for animal cruelty and abuse. As for why Shauna got a lighter sentence too, well, given Blaney's record of not giving a damn for abused animals, she probably didn't even need much of a reason to get it. But on a brighter note, Sammy made a full recovery, was adopted into a loving family, and even included in BuzzFeed's list of 10 senior dogs on Facebook that are cooler than you. They said Sweet Sammy was an abused dog brought in by his former owner in a garbage bag, close to death. His recovery and his family's fight for justice has captured the hearts of thousands as we went from horror to joy, watching Sammy find health, love, and happiness in his new life. In November of 2014, Sammy passed away from a stroke. He died peacefully in his new dad's arms. While this is very sad, we can all rest assured that his legacy will live on. As of now, his Facebook page, Sammy the Cocker Spaniel Facebook page, is still up and running. While it's not primarily about Sammy anymore, the page does feature animals who do need to find their forever home. So, if you want to check it out, the Facebook's page link will be in the show notes. So, that was the abuse case of Sammy the Cocker Spaniel. As you've heard, Sammy suffered a lot under the care of the Morgans. Once they decided that they didn't want him anymore, they started treating him like trash. And obviously, that's not the right thing to do. People who no longer want their dogs or cats or rabbits should really consider leaving them at a local shelter or rescue. They shouldn't just leave them on the road. They don't deserve it. They deserve so much more from us. They trust us and they love us, and in return, we should show them the same respect. So, a very hearty thank you to all the rescuers, rescues, fosters, caretakers, and loving pet parents out there who are treating animals right. And as always, tell people you know about the Voiceless Speak Forever podcast so that people can know more about animal abuse. Subscribe to the podcast, and if you like it, please remember to leave a review. It really helps with visibility. And follow VSF on Instagram. It's the period VSF period official. And sign a petition demanding social media and streaming platforms stop allowing animal abuse content to be posted and kept up. And for those who are listening on Apple Podcasts, since the links in the show notes are not showing up properly, if you want to check out the websites and sources, you can find clickable links on Podbean. Everything should be there. And finally, I want to thank Cats960 for being the first Podbean follower. Thank you so much. And with that, thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you guys next Wednesday. Toodles!